Newsmaker Sunday with Fox 10's John Hook.
Thanks for joining us on Newsmaker Sunday. Proud to have with us this week on Newsmaker Sunday the governor of the great state of Arizona, Doug Ducey, is our guest. This is the first time on the show. We've done the show remotely, had you up in the governor's office, you and Mike Bidwell, but this is the first time I think you've been down here for the program.
Well, it's good to be back.
Good to see you. We'll talk about 123 in a minute, but you've been a busy guy this past week. You signed 16 bills into law. One of those captured my attention, but I know you had to go through all of them. But let me ask you about this one. If a kid is 21 and younger, he's an adult, if he has sexual contact with a minor who's 15 to 17, you signed this bill so that they wouldn't be stigmatized with being a sex offender forever. Tell me how you arrived at that decision.
Well, it's the same way we arrive at any decision with these bills. I sit down with my legislative team, senior staff and policy advisors. We hear both sides of the issues. I'm able to see what the legislature voted on it, hear the rationale, who the pro side is, who the opponents are, who's neutral on it, and then we try to move good public policy forward, and we thought this was good policy.
You just thought that a kid who's 21 who has sexual contact with a consenting, but a minor, but an older minor, shouldn't have that stigma forever.
Well, I think someone tagged this the Romeo and Juliet bill, and that individual has to be willing, both individuals have to be willing to say that they do not consider themselves a victim or want the other individual stigmatized. So we thought that was good policy rather than having someone with no second chance that goes through life with that type of label.
With a tag on him. You signed 16 bills into law this week. What else caught your attention?
Well, you know, there's so many bills coming through the legislature, and we've got our legislative agenda as well. We're always looking for things that fit into the prism of, will this make the state a more attractive place to live, work, and play? Is it supportive of education? Does it fit the principles that we want to move forward as a state? And then I also have to respect my separate and co-equal branch of the legislature. There's some things that are important to rural Arizona and urban Arizona, so that's why we have that setting and that situation where we make a final decision on a bill.
There was another one dealing with warning mothers-to-be who go to a medical marijuana shop the dangers of marijuana. That one you signed as well. I
signed that as well. We do that whether it's tobacco, whether it's alcohol, and we had a legislator that thought we should do that for medical marijuana. And I have to say, I mean, I would question why a pregnant woman would be engaging in that, but if that's what's available and that's their decision, the warning will be there.
About what's coming with marijuana in this state, that we're gonna go down the road of Colorado?
I come at this as the father of 3 young sons and the son of a cop. I also don't think that any state becomes stronger by being stoned. I don't think that this has been a good idea for Colorado. It hasn't resulted in new revenue. It's wreaking havoc in their schools. No
revenue. That's interesting, because I keep reading that they're making huge money off
this. Well, they bring in revenue, but they have enforcement, they have regulation, and they have the social costs. You know, they have 938 dispensaries, more marijuana dispensaries than they do Starbucks in the state of Colorado. And it really is the edibles, the cookies, the gummy bears, the brownies,
stuff,
and now they have the drinkables. And little kids and high school kids, I think it was their regulation czar who said that he fears that they may lose an entire generation of young Coloradoans.
Let me ask you about, we've had a spate of bills in the legislature dealing with immigration. When you got elected, you talked a lot in the campaign that you wanted to kind of move the ball forward and get beyond this issue that had really come to characterize and tag Arizona as an inhospitable place for immigrants. Now I guess you've got 5 bills left. You've signed one of them. Do you worry that you're being pulled back into this debate, really against your will to some degree?
Well, I would say look at our record. We have had a strong record of law enforcement. We have had a strong record of relationships. You know, I'm the first governor in the last 10 years to go to Mexico City. I built a relationship with the new governor of Sonora, Claudia Pavlovich. Angela and I went and attended her inauguration. And at the same time, we've invested in a border strike force. So I think these are separate issues. issues. You can talk about a growing international economy that benefits both Arizona and Canada. I'm sorry, Arizona and Mexico. This is our largest international trading partner, ×4. But we also have real issues in terms of border security. And then we have immigration issues that are handled back in Washington, D.C.
You're walking the line. You're trying to walk the line.
We're focused on our J job. We're concerned about public safety. We're concerned about the quality of life in Arizona. And I'm as frustrated as anyone else with what's going on in Washington, D.C. and the lack of leadership.
We had the head of Puente on last week, Carlos Garcia. Let me say what this is a quote about you. He said about these bills. You've probably read it. He said, this is going to be a litmus test of where Ducey wants to take the state. Is he going to go backwards like Jan Brewer, Joe Arpaio, and former Senate President Russell Pierce? Or is he going to do what he said and take the state in a different direction?
This is someone who is looking to cause distraction, who is trying to start a fight. The bills that we have signed have been good public policy. The bill that he was referring to specifically was one that guaranteed equality in sentencing.
Right.
We think that whether you're an American citizen or any criminal that violates the law, that you should serve your entire sentence. That's the bill that we signed, and that's the bill that he wants to label the state over. And I just don't think people are buying it. The chambers aren't buying it. The Arizona Hispanic Chamber isn't buying it, and neither is the community. I'm out and about, and I'm in front of people every single day. They're applauding the direction that we're going, and they, at the same time, are concerned about public safety and that we'll have the proper focus on it. And this individual wants to cause a distraction and gain attention.
Do you worry about this word today that came out, that there may be a boycott effort, similar to what happened in the wake of 1070?
We're not going to have a boycott effort. We are always going to have these extremists that look to tear the state down, and I choose to build the state up. I think it's a great place to live, work, and play. I've been all over the state, and I've been in many parts of the country promoting the state of Arizona, and I'm going to continue to do that. We've got a great product. 70% of our residents moved here from somewhere else. I mean, I can't think of a better leading indicator that people in the most mobile country in the world would say, hey, I'm going to pack up my U-Haul truck and I'm going to move to Arizona because of the economic attractiveness and because of the quality of life.
Much like you did.
Yes, much like I did.
To come out to ASU.
Much like many of us did.
One more thing. Senate Bill 1516, you signed this as well. This was a so-called dark money bill. I wanted to ask you about it because I haven't had a chance to. You characterized it as something different, that this was really a freedom of speech and freedom of expression. That you think that this dark money thing has been overplayed? Well,
I think it should be simpler and easier to participate in our political process. I also want to see, we're trying to lighten and lower the regulations, whether it's on business or whether it's on speech. And as someone who came from the outside world and entered public life, I saw how difficult it is, how many restrictions and all the gotchas along the way. We wanted to clear that path as much as we could and allow people to participate in the process.
When you saw this fiasco on primary day in Arizona, what did you think?
Well, I thought something has gone terribly wrong. And this is something that can be fixed.
Were you watching these pictures going, what in the world is going on?
We were doing a little bit more than that. And we also want to work with decision makers so that better decisions are made going forward.
Because it's really the one in memory that I can recall that we had this kind of problem.
You know, we had public officials step forward and say, my bad.
Helen Purcell.
My mistake. And this is someone that has had a record of excellence and competence going back decades.
You stand by her.
So this is a time to make the adjustment, make the correction, and let's judge this by what happens in August and what happens in November.
I need to ask you this. How much culpability does the Secretary of State have in something like this? I mean, she is your lieutenant governor in waiting. Michelle Reagan was pretty quiet on the issue for a few days at least. Should she have been asking questions about whether 60 polling places were enough?
I think she said that I should have asked this question, and I should have looked more closely at this. And you know, the legislature had these public hearings, and there was a lot of discussion in those public hearings. And I realize, I understand why people were upset. When you have to wait in line that long to vote. So what we can do is fix this going forward. I do think we've made it confusing to vote in these presidential primary elections.
Doubt. Would you favor having independents just...
I do favor that.
Just let them vote.
I want more people to vote. I want more people to participate in our system, and we should make it easier for them to do it. We've done many good things in Arizona. We vote by mail. We have early voting.
I think we got lulled into complacency, actually, because of that, because early voting had been such a big chunk of voting that I think maybe Helen Purcell and those folks thought, we don't need all these polling places anymore.
So let's judge this by what happens in August and what happens in November. I have high confidence it'll be fixed.
Okay, we're going to take a break. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, our guest on Newsmaker Sunday. Back in a moment, right after Governor Doug Ducey on Newsmaker Sunday. I can't leave you without asking about the presidential race. Right now, Trump, Cruz on the Republican side. You have stayed out of this thing.
Well, I'm a first semester freshman as a public servant. I'm focused on my day job. My mind's not on, my time's not in national politics. I want to do my job as governor.
You'll be at the convention, though, this summer.
We're scheduled to be there. I think it'll be exciting. We'll choose a nominee, and I'll be supportive of that nominee.
No matter who it is.
I'm going to be supportive of the Republican nominee for president.
Do you suspect that Trump might not get there?
Well, I'm going to trust the people on this one. I mean, there's a reason that they have this process, and you go state by state. I will say this one is much more dramatic than what we're used to.
I agree.
And when I go home at night after I've finished my work at the Capitol and what my responsibility is here, I like to see what's happening.
They both, 30 seconds, they both approached you. I'm sure all these guys approached you to try to get your endorsement. How did you stay out of it?
Well, I listened to every one of them. I introduced them, whether it's at the leadership, the chamber, and then I said, whoever wins, I will be supportive of that nominee, that this is my first year in office. I don't want to focus on the job.
15 seconds. Biggest surprise so far in this job?
I think the biggest surprise is how much you can get done if you'll reach out and work with others and actually communicate a plan that benefits the people of our state.
And you're enjoying it?
Oh, I'm enjoying it, yes.
Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, pleasure to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Continued success, best of luck, of course.
Thanks.
We all, want things to go well here in Arizona. We'll see you next week on Fox 10 Newsmaker Sunday. Thanks for spending some time with us.